Welcome to our weekly Mitzvah Shabbos program. Now it's Chanukah and Mitzvah Shabbos. The night is long, and Yidden are sitting now after Havdalah, and they're looking at the Chanukah Menorah, and they're listening what the candles are telling them. Hayomim ha'ela niskorim v'nasim. These days should be remembered. V'nasim, Chanukah. It's dark outside, and Chanukah teaches us that we have to light the outside with ner mitzvah v'teira oir ad de kalye ragle de tamidoi, until we light up the world with Torah mitzvahs. And the Chanukah candles is mipesach beisa mibachutz. They're on the outside door, the doorpost from the outside. That means that ner Chanukah mezuzah biyamin, the mezuzah has to be on the right side, and the candles on the left side. That means that the house should be surrounded with Torah mitzvahs. And mipesach beisai, there has to be mibachutz, to light the world with Torah mitzvahs, until the people will realize and Torah mitzvahs and become Balshuvas, I guess. But it has to be mipesach beisai. Don't forget about your own children. The house, that you have a house. How in the house it should be outside, but it should also be mipesach beisai. Now, since this week was December 25th, it was Nittel night. This Chanukah, it fell out. So it reminds me of the story of I think the Rishon or maybe the Baal Shem Tov. And I think the Frierdiker Rebbe said the story. That once the Baal Shem Tov or the Rishon, the Talmidim, the students were by them, and the Baal Shem Tov, the Rishon, Baal Shem Tov told him that whatever you hear and you see, you should learn out in Avodas Hashem how to serve the Eibishter. So they heard, and then they went outside, and December 25th, that night, the Goyim used to have a custom in Russia, in Poland, that the ice froze, it was very cold, and so they made a tzelom, a cross on the ice, and they cut around the tzelom, and they picked up the ice, the kalter tzelom, and they carried the tzelom all night and they sang. Here the Talmidim, the students of the Rishon or the Baal Shem, heard that the Rebbe told them, whatever you see and you hear, you learn out in how to serve God. The first thing we saw is a cross. What can we learn from this? So they ran back to the Rebbe, Baal Shem, and they said to him what they saw. So he said, from here we can learn out that when somebody or something becomes cold to a mitzvah, the end is, God forbid, they might become a tzelom. A molik kaltkite is the worst thing. When a person is cold to something, then God forbid, that's the worst thing. As the Rebbe mentioned, that it says in the Mishnah, when a person stands Shmoneh Esrei, and a snake goes around the feet, then continue davening, don't worry. But when a scorpion, akrov, then you have to stop. It's much worse. What's the difference between a snake? They're both poisonous. A snake, when a snake bites a person, makes a person hot, and the person, God forbid, dies. A scorpion bites, makes a person cold. If heat falls in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, Taivus, from the Yetzer Hara, don't worry. Daven by davening, you'll continue and you'll change this heat of La'umazeh to the heat of Kedusha. But when kaltkeit falls in, apathy, cult, that's much worse. That's Amalek. Then you have to get rid right away. So the Lushener, the Baal Shem Tov told him that kaltkeit is the extra zach. In America, they say, it's a word, oh, he's a cool guy. Cool is a madregi, he's cool. Cool is the opposite of Torah. Cool is Amalek, cool is cold. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov, what the Lushener told him. Now, since we are sitting now by the candles, and we're eating latkes, and looking at the candles, what the candles are telling them, and everybody has questions, and we need answers, and we're waiting for answers. I mean, if it says that the candles are telling you something, maybe there's answers. So I want to share with you today a question that Rabbi Mindel asked the Rebbe in 1949. They were working together, the Tanya in translating Bechal in books. They had discussions about Freud. They were talking about Freud, and they had discussions. And Rabbi Mindel wrote to the Rebbe questions before the Rebbe was Rebbe. He was the Ramash then, and the Rebbe answered him many times. I have a lot of answers, and I think I spoke in my program a while ago, and maybe there's more questions written by the Rebbe's handwriting. So here I have a question that Rabbi Mindel asked the Rebbe. The question is in Hebrew. I'll translate it in English. I'll show you what he asked. And I misplaced the answer. Now, they say Hasidim treffen zu emes. Sometimes Hasidim, if they look, sometimes they come to the answer. So I want to show you the question. Maybe sitting by Chanukah Menorah, Hasidim, maybe they'll know the answer. Now, I regret that I should have showed this to Rabbi Yoel Kanol of Hasholem, because this is probably, he would be able to answer of the answer. I cannot find the answer. I saw it, I cannot find it, and maybe if I will find it, I will let you know. And if anybody thinks they know the answer, please let me know. So the while I'm going to read this question, and I'll show you this in Hebrew, and I'll read what it says here. Maybe the Chanukah Menorah will give you the answer. He writes like this: Chov Daled Nisan Tov Shin Tes Kveid Hagoen Ramashlite. Greeting and blessings. On the subject of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, he was a big psychologist, one of the biggest, best known the past 100 years. He introduced the idea that a person has a natural inclination to kill himself, what he calls death inclination. And Rabbi Mindel writes, I will not expand on this. This is, you sing the Hebrew, I'm translating this. And at the same time, a person has an opposite inclination, a desire to live, which he calls life instinct. Because of the strength of the inclination to kill oneself, and the fact that it is somewhat limited by the inclination to live, there is born in a person an inclination to hurt another, such as to display anger at another. So Freud, therefore, comes to the conclusion that as a result of the death inclination, there comes about in a person an inclination to destroy. According to him, this inclination is one of the basic powers of the soul. Thus, cruelty brings satisfaction and pleasure to a person. This inclination is a constant presence in the person, ready to pounce to express itself at any moment without any external initiative. Now he writes, there are those later psychologists who dispute this idea and say that even though there exists hatred, cruelty, and destruction in the world, it is not necessary to say that these are natural inborn inclinations in a person, but rather that the environment and education causes this. That's what some psychologists say. But Freud argues. Then Rabbi Mindel writes, apparently, it seems from Freud that a baby is born with the instinct to be cruel to living creatures, as in the story of Yitzchak Shaul in the memoirs. You know that in the memoirs, if you read in the of the Frierdiker Rebbe, there was somebody, Yitzchak Shaul, I'm not going to go into the story, you can read it. He hurt a chicken, and his father was angry on him, a whole thing, you can read it there. That's what he means. And you should read the memoirs. And also, according to Tanya, that explains that the Nefesh HaBahamis, the animal soul, which dwells in the left side of the heart, that is full of blood. It seems that the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, is sunk in the animal soul. But in every Jew, the animal soul is derived from Klipas Noiga. And it can be not only controlled, but it also can be changed, converted, unlike in Freud's theory. And according to what Tanya writes about the souls of the nations, the idol worshippers, whose source is from the Klipas Tumah, of which have absolutely no good, this correlates exact with Freud's theory. So he's asking the Rebbe a question. A, what is the opinion of the honored Gaon, means the Rebbe, about the above, according to the teachings of Chabad? Number 2, B, does the philosophy of Chabad have a novel take, a new take on psychology in general as compared to Jewish philosophers, and who from them dealt with these questions? And C, sources in Chabad teachings that deal with questions of psychology. The topic is broad and includes the relationship between the intellect and emotions, feelings, joy and sadness, pride and humility, lust and self-control. With thanks in advance, and Rabbi Midel signs this. So this is the Hebrew. I wanted to show you this. I was always in my mind this question. We need answers. I can't find the Rebbe's answer. I hope I will. But meanwhile, maybe people that are sitting by the Chanukah Menorah, maybe they can study this or find the answers of this. And Mitzvah Hashem, next week we'll continue our weekly program. Thank you.